So now it's our turn to go out in the city and try to immerse ourselves in the reality without getting lost, though. How can we do that? I'd like to suggest a very simple exercise. Sit and observe. Just sit and observe. Choose a set amount of time to do this. I suggest 15 or 20 minutes. Don't take any pictures in this period of time. Just find a place, switch off your phones, computers, tablets, and sit quietly, observing the world around you from that precise spot. We are not used to do this anymore. Like in meditation, our mind will soon get bored and start wandering around, in a certain sense, escaping from reality. So we need to resist the temptation of running away. The world can be seen objectively or subjectively. You might want to bring a journal with you and pencil down your thoughts, suggestions, insights, and so on. You will find yourself seeing the scene differently after 20 minutes of this exercise. You don't need to take a picture, but now, after this amount of time, if you think that you have found something meaningful, that you found a meaningful scene, you can wait for the decisive moment and try to capture it. Remember, though, that in street photography, the human component is fundamental. So you need to show the interaction between the city and the persons. And of course, if you want to, send me your pictures and your comments and your feedback to my email, which is enos.fotografia@gmail.com. I'm really curious to see how you interpret the place that you live in. As we already mentioned, we can divide the process of taking a picture in three main phases: pre-production, production, and post-production. In the past two videos, we talked about the first phase, which is pre-production, and today's exercise is also an exercise that deepens this phase as well. But now it's time to move on to the next phase, the phase of production. The next phase is the phase of production of a picture. A phase that involves many skills, many abilities, and a close attention to both your camera, the scene around you, but also your mental processes. Mastering these three components with an open and void mind is a great goal for every photographer. It means being in deep contact with your creativity and use your tool accordingly without wasting time and mental energy in setting your camera. Whether you use manual settings or the automatic system of your camera, you need to be aware of the composition of your image. Composition is an extremely powerful aspect to take into consideration. As we saw with Henri Cartier-Bresson's pictures, he was a real master in placing his subjects and all the other elements in the right place, in order to guide the observer's eyes where he wanted to. To do this, we might consider some rules when we are going to take a picture. And during this process, with practice, you will find that your image springs in your mind before you can even see it in your viewfinder. So, rules of composition. The first rule is an innate rule, which is centering the subject. It's very natural indeed to put the subject that you want to picture in the dead center of your image. This is not wrong per se, as you might read somewhere, but it brings a certain symmetry that might result in some cases in a flat image. So even if it's an instinctive impulse, ask yourself why you want to place a subject there. Another way to compose our image is composing it according to the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds tells us that we will divide an image in 9 zones thanks to a grid. The elements that are placed in the lines of the grid and those who are placed in the intersections of these lines will be the most prominent. Nowadays, almost every camera or phones have the option to show this grid. So, especially in the beginning, you can consider using this useful tool. Diagonal lines. Diagonal lines are usually very powerful. So if an element is crossing a scene, be sure that it will immediately be visible to our eyes, and it will guide our gaze in that direction. Remember also that we are trained, as raised in a Western society, to read a text and consequently an image from left to right and from the top of the bottom. So of course you can take into account all these rules in the production phase or in the post-production phase, where you can cut your image and therefore move some elements closer, for example, to the lines created by the rule of thirds. But what's even more important is to remember that every rule can be broken. Every rule can be broken once that you know the rule. And a rule can be broken if and only if you have a specific purpose. Sometimes it's the scene itself that requires the application or the disobedience of a certain rule. Sometimes you just want to show your personal view and convey your feelings through the application or not of a rule. So for today, I think that's it. And again, if you want, please send me your thoughts and your pictures using my email address, enos.fotografia@gmail.com. And now I am glad to share with you some pictures that I took doing this exercise that we suggested, that I hope we are going to do in the next couple of weeks. So thank you very much for your attention, and see you next time.